Hey, so today's tutorial is going to be a nice, quick and easy one. It's how to create a sampler instrument out of a drum loop. And the reason you want to do this is sometimes you find a drum loop that you really love. You love the kicks and the snares and the sound of it, but you want to create your own rhythm from it, especially if you're doing kind of hip hop type tracks and you want to change up the rhythms. And this is one of the easiest ways of doing it, and that's what I'm going to show you today. So for this example today, I've knocked this up here. In the middle we've got some samples. Let me just play them. Underneath that we've got some shakers and a click. And right at the very bottom we've got our actual drum loop. Let me unmute this, and this is what we're going to be chopping up today. And then right at the very top we've got kind of what I prepared earlier, which is my little sample tracks, but I've prepared a version here missing those because I'm going to show you how to create it yourself. So here we've got our loops and our samples in the middle here, and we want to create a sample instrument out of this. Really easy. Hold down Control, click on it, and we go convert to new sampler track. And then it comes up with this thing here. Let me talk you through this quickly. Create zones from, if I click regions at the top, what it will do with the regions is it detects how many different audio samples there are there, how many actual different audio clips. But because there's only one audio clip here, it's just a whole drum loop, the regions is not going to do very well because it's going to create one huge sampler instrument sample, which is not what we want. If underneath we click transient markers, what it does is it goes through and detects where all the snares and the kicks and the hi-hats are, the loudest parts of the clip, and creates different zones out of that. And you'll notice right at the bottom it says it's going to create me an instrument with 33 zones, which sounds about right for a 4-bar loop. Underneath that it tells you where you're going to put it, so we're actually going to create a sampler instrument there. Underneath that, create one-shot zones, and one-shot zones are if you play a key, it will play the entire sample on that key no matter how long or short you press that note down. And for doing drum loops, this is really useful because I don't want to be programming my drum loop in, playing it on the keyboard and be worrying about how quickly I'm taking my finger off the key, because if you take it off really quickly it's going to chop off the back end of that sample. So I'm going to leave that clicked on, create one-shot zones. Underneath that is the instrument name, and it usually just creates an instrument based on what the actual file itself is called, so I'm going to leave that as is. And underneath that, trigger note range, and this is worth having a quick look at before you click OK, because when you click OK you're going to find those notes on your keyboard. And you know, I've done this before where I've clicked OK, I've not noticed where the octave setting is on my keyboard, and I've panicked and thought there's nothing there, whereas actually if I move the keyboard down a few octaves I found all my samples. So they're going to start on C-2. Click OK, and what it's done here is it's muted the audio channel here, and underneath is a software instrument track with all of the beat. And what it does to show you where it's chopped it up, it programs all the MIDI notes in here on your piano roll, and these are all the different samples, but we don't actually need that, so I'm going to click delete. And if I go to my keyboard now and press different notes, I should find that I've got that entire drum beat chopped up and laid out on the keyboard ready for me to play. What you will find is that in a clip like this there's several snares, several kicks and several hi-hats. So you might find that there's different versions of different kicks or hi-hats or snares that I can use. So for example, kicks, I've got the first one with that kind of cymbal hit over the top. There's also ones with tambourine, and there's also ones with hi-hats. And what you can do when you're creating your beat is you can chop up different kicks to create that kind of, that really interesting sound. So what I'm going to do now is just create myself a little bit of a beat using my kicks and my snare. let me just, I've just copied this here just to give myself a little bit of a count in, and I'm going to try and play it in on the fly, which hopefully should go well. So there we go, so we've got our kicks and our snare. What also I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this sample instrument here. So click on it, and a really quick way of duplicating a track if you want the exact same settings and same inputs here is if you click on the track and you press Command D, and what it's done is it's created a duplicate channel here. So I'm going to program my hi-hats in on this one. There we go. Let's have another pass. So there we go. So we've got our hats and our kick and our snare. The only other thing that you need to do when you've programmed this in, and it's worth just mentioning this, is sometimes, in fact I've done it here, sometimes you find, say, that kick and the snare here, the actual first note here, if I click on my MIDI, it actually goes in front of the bar line, and what that means is when it's going to play, if anything that happens before this region here, it's not going to play. So this first one, you just need to make sure it's quantized, or you need to move it manually just so it starts exactly on beat one, otherwise you won't hear that kick. And the same with my hi-hats. That first one there, oh dear, terribly out of time. So if I click there and just make sure it's on time, and then now I've got my beat here. And there's little bits in there that are a little bit sloppy that I might tweak and change later on, but you know, I've just created this right now, so you can forgive me a little bit of timing errors there. But it sounds pretty cool, and to be honest, there's a certain amount of this kind of sloppiness that's, you get that real J Dilla sound. It sounds really cool, so you don't need to go too crazy on your quantizing either. So in a nutshell, that's how to create sampler instruments from a drum loop here. There you go. I'm going to creating some more of these tutorials regularly, so if you want to subscribe, then hopefully you're going to learn some stuff, and I hope to show you some new tips and tricks along the way. Thanks for listening. Please subscribe. See you later.